this parak we're talking about joining together to make an ERU Chatzeres. So if there's a few houses open to one courtyard, you can't carry from the houses into the courtyard because the houses are a private domain, or like a rishus, one rishus, and the courtyard is a joint rishus. So it has some sort of similarity to walking from a rishus hayachid into a rishus harabim, which the Torah prohibits. Therefore, you have to make an eruv chatzeres, which we discussed in the previous parakim. So now the Mishnah is discussing if somebody has a goy, a non-Jewish neighbor, in the same courtyard. So you have a house, and next to you in the same courtyard you have a goy living there. Hadar im ha'akum b'chatzer. If you live with a goy in the courtyard, same courtyard, oy imisha eina moide be'eruv, or together with somebody who doesn't care. So this is a very broad term. It seems at this point in the Mishnah that the Tanakama in the Mishnah, Rashi says it's talking about a kuti, so he's not like a quasi-Jew. But it seems that he even includes a tzeduki, even somebody who just denies the Torah Shabbal Peh would also go into this category, because we'll see soon Rabbi Gamliel argues on that. But, so anybody who doesn't admit to Eruv, Harei zeh oiser alav. So that person cannot join in the Eruv, because either they're a guy or they don't admit to Eruv. So therefore, they make everybody else usher to carry in this courtyard. So he ruins it for everybody. And like Rashi explains here, unless the only way you can fix this problem is if you rent the space from the guy. If you have a guy as one of your neighbors, if you rent his space, then you can include the whole. You can make an eruv in this chutzner, in this courtyard.
Avram ben Mordechai.
Yeah. Oh, it should be a Linus Shama for Avram ben Mordechai. Okay, yes. We're just talking about, for those who just joined, we're talking about having a non-Jewish neighbor and you want to make an eruv. They share your courtyard. You cannot make an eruv with a non-Jew unless you rent the space from him. Amar Abba Gamliel, Maisa b'tzeduki echad shehayadar imanu b'mavoy. There was a story with a tzeduki, a heretic, this guy that doesn't admit to the Torah Shabbal Peh, like we discussed. Oh, I'm sorry, I skipped. I'm sorry, thank you. The only time a guy makes it usher to join in an eruv is if you have two yidden living in that courtyard. If you have just one yid living in the courtyard, and let's say one guy, the guy does not affect the Jew, because it's like the Jew has his own space. The guy doesn't. We'll see in the Gemara how to explain this exactly. It's not so clear, but if there's two, then the guy makes it usher. If there's only one, then it doesn't affect him. There was a tzeduki that lived with us in the same mavi. In other words, we had one chutzner, a few houses in one courtyard, a few houses in another courtyard, and it came together in a mavoi. So this guy, this tzeduki, he was Jewish, but he wasn't. He was a tzeduki, and he lived with us in the same, shared the mavoi with us in Yerushalayim. But Amar Lanu Abba, our father told us, Maru v'haitziu es hakelim lamavoi. Apparently what happened apparently what happened here is this tzeduki gave up his rights to the chutzner. He removed himself so it shouldn't affect everybody else, and this way not allow them to make an eruv in this or a sheet of mavois in this case. So if he removes himself, like in the case of a regular yid, if you have a bunch of yid and one guy doesn't want to join the eruv, so he affects everybody else. But if he says, okay, I'm giving up my rights to the chutzner or my rights to the mavoi, so then you could make the eruv. In this case, the tzeduki gave up his rights to the mavoi. So Amar Lanu Abba, our father, told us, quickly go right when Shabbos starts and put your kalim, put some of your belongings in the mavoi to show that you are taking over the rishus. And make sure you do this before he does it. The tzeduki puts his kalim in his belongings in the mavoi, because by him doing that, he'll take back his rights to the mavoi, and you wouldn't be able to make the eruv together with him.
You can't make an eruv with the tzeduki?
No, that's what the Mishnah started with. That somebody who denies eruv, then they can't make an eruv. because like you said, Eruvin is introduced by the Rabbanan. You have to. Rabbi Yehuda Omer b'lashon acher. Rabbi Yehuda says it a little bit differently. In the same case, the Tzeduki living with them, he removed himself. He gave up his rights to the Chatzir, to the Mavoi. So he says, Maru v'asu tzarchechem b'Mavoi ad shelo yotzi v'yeh asar aleichem. Quickly do, what Rashi says, it's talking about even on Friday. Before Shabbos starts, you should quickly go out to the Mavoi and be there to take over the rights and not let him go out there. So they discuss why can't you do this on Shabbos, just like the other case, just like the first Shita in the Mishnah where he put the Kalim in the Mavoi. So he says because we're afraid that the Tzeduki may sneak out right when Shabbos starts, and as long just by being there, it will take back, as it's just walking out from the Chatzar into the Mavoi, he already takes back his rights to it. So therefore go from before Shabbos ready and stand there, so you should acquire the rights there and take it away from the Tzeduki. Yosef Abaya, says the Gemara, Yosef Abaya bar Avin, v'Rav Chinina bar Avin, v'Yosef Abaya gabayhu. They were sitting, a few Amoraim were sitting together. Abaya was sitting there with them. The Yasvi v'Ka'amri, they were saying, Bishlam Rav Meir, we understand Rav Meir. Rav Meir is the Tanna Kama of the Mishnah. Whenever there's no name, it's usually Rav Meir. So Rav Meir, we understand, in the Mishnah he says, Kasavar diras ovid kachavim, shma dira. V'loish nachad, v'loish natrei. A dira of ovid kachavim, the dwelling of a goy, is considered a dwelling. His house, we look at it as one of the houses in the courtyard. And so therefore it doesn't make a difference how many Jews are joined with him in this courtyard. Right? Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov says you have to have a minimum of 2 Yidden there. The Rav Meir, the Tanna Kama, didn't make any minimum. So even whether it's 1 or 2, it'll still affect him, and he wouldn't be able to make an Erev together. He wouldn't be able to make the guy wouldn't ruin it for the Yid. The guy wouldn't affect him negatively. In other words, the Yid would be able to carry there. So the Gemara says, now, we understand Rav Meir, where it doesn't make a difference how many Jews there are there, because Dira Savet Kachavim Shma Dira. The dwelling of a goy is considered a dwelling. V'loish Nachad, V'loish Natrei. Doesn't make a difference 1 or 2 Yidden. Elo Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov, who said in the Mishnah, you have to have a minimum of 2 Jews there in order for the goy to get in the way and stop the Eruv. Micah Savar, what does he hold? If he holds that a dira of a goy, the house of a goy, is considered a house, so then even 1 Yid, it stop the 1 Yid from being able to carry there. The iluy shma dira, if it's not considered a house, even if there's 2 Yid in there, the guy shouldn't get in the way of the 2 Yidin. So what does he hold? Is a guy's house considered a house? Is it dira savik shma dira or not? Amar luhu Abaya. So Abaya, who was sitting there, said to those other Amoraim, the Savar Rebbe Meir diras akum shma dira. He holds that it is considered a dira. Oh, I'm sorry, no, he's asking. The Savar Rebbe Meir dira. So you're assuming here that Rav Elazar ben Yaakov we don't understand because we don't know if it's a dira, if it's considered a dira or not considered a dira. If the house is considered to be a dwelling, so that means you're taking on for granted that Rebbe Meir holds that it is diras akum shma dira. I have a hatanya. We have a brayso which says chatzei shel ovid kachavim, the courtyard of a goy harehu kedir shel behema. It's just like a stable. It doesn't affect. It doesn't make it like there's separate reshuyos here and require an eruv. It doesn't stop me from carrying. If the Yidden are living in one chutzner and Goy is living in a different chutzner, it doesn't stop us from being able to carry in the mavoi because we look at his chutzner just as a stable. Kedir shel behema. So this should be telling us that diras ovid kachavim is not considered a dira. Ella the kuli alma, says the Gemara, diras akum loishma dira. So in fact, a diras akum, the dira of a goy, a house of a goy, is not considered a dwelling place, and therefore it's not considered its own reshus, and it shouldn't affect the chutzner. So what's going on over here? What's the problem with having a goy and you're sharing a courtyard with a goy or a mavoi? The problem is we don't want Yidden to live near goyim because we may learn from their bad ways. Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov Savar Kivan the Ovid Kachavim Chashud Ashvichas Damim, since a guy is a suspected murderer, so therefore Trei Shchichi the diary. It's normal. It's more common to have at least 2 people living together with the guy in the same courtyard. So when there's a common circumstance of Gazru Bahu, the Chachamim made a Gzeira in order to have Yidden not living near Goyim. The Chachamim made a Gzeira, and so the normal case would be a minimum of 2 Yidden because 1 Yid wouldn't live near a Goy because he's afraid he'll kill him. So, and the chad, the loy shchiach, one yid to live near a guy, it's not shchiach. Like gazru bei Rabbanan. The Rabbanan never made a gzeira where it's an uncommon circumstance. If it's a common occurrence, then the Chachamim apply their gzeira. But where it's not the regular, it's not normal for one guy to live near a guy, the Chachamim didn't apply their gzeira there. So the whole gzeira again is just to keep the yidden away from the guy, and you shouldn't learn from them. So the Chachamim only applied it where it's the normal case, where you have two yidden, because it's only normal to have two yidden living there and not one. So what about Rab Meir? Rab Meir Savar Zimnin the Mikri V'Dayer. It still is common enough, because sometimes you have one yid living next to one guy. You don't. It's not totally uncommon, and therefore I guess he held that the Chachamim did make a gzeira even in that case. That so if you have one yid and one guy, the yid cannot carry into the courtyard. The Chachamim said in the place of a guy, you can't have an eruv. The ein bittul reshus moyel b'makom akum. Not only that, the bittul reshus doesn't work. A guy cannot give up his rights to the chutzner, and he can't be mevatel his reshus. A guy can't be mevatel. It doesn't work. Ad sheyasker, until you rent it from him. This is what I was saying that Rashi said in the Mishnah, until you rent it from him. V'akum loy mugar, but the guy is not going to want to rent it to you. So the Gemara explains, my timer, why isn't the guy... So basically he's just explaining what the gzeira is. The gzeira is, you can't make an eruv together with a guy, and his bittul reshus, him saying, okay, I give up my rights, doesn't work. So the only way around it is to rent it from him, and he's not going to want to rent it to you. So therefore you're going to have to move away, because you won't be able to carry there on Shabbos. So you have to move away. So why the Chazal made this takana, to get the yidden to move away from the goyim. So the Gemara just tries to understand this. My timer, why is the guy not going to want to rent it to you? Why will it work? Why will the Chacham's gzeira work? If the reason is because the guy is afraid that now the yid will be machzik in his reshus, in other words, he'll take over his rights and I guess not give them back. He'll take over his rights to the chutzner. The yid will take them away from the guy permanently. That's only good according to the Manda Amar, to the one who holds chiras bria ba'inan. That the rental that we're talking about over here is talking about a strong rental, and the Gemara will explain what that means. According to the opinion that what kind of rental does the yid need to have from the guy is only a weak rental. What are you going to say? The itmar, because we were taught by Rav Chisda Amar, Schirus Bria, you have to have a strong rental. Rav Sheshes Amar, Schirus Re'ua. You could even have a weak rental in order to make an eruv in this area with a guy. Even a weak rental.
Declaration problem.
What the difference between weak and strong? Yeah. The Gemara is going to tell us exactly what the difference is. There's two there. So the Gemara says
a day is too short, or a day or 2 days. It's too short. Why does it have to be a week?
No, I mean weak as in strength, lack of strength.
They're renting
weak as opposed to strong. I'm sorry.
They're renting the guy's rights in the chutzner?
Yeah.
His rights.
Yeah.
That means that he has no rights, the guy himself?
Yeah.
Or?
Well, if you rent it, he has to give you his rights for while you're renting it.
So
but the guy is afraid that you're not going to give it back. That's why he won't allow it. But I think that's what it means, renting it. So, Michael, so we have a machlokes Rav Sheshes and Rav Chisda. Rav Chisda says you need a strong rental. Rav Sheshes says you need a weak rental. My re'ua, my bria. What does it mean weak? What does it mean strong? Ilema bria bepruta. A strong rental is with a pruta, like a value of currency. Re'ua bepachis mishava pruta. And a weak rental is something which is not even a shava pruta. That's not even worth the minimum amount of currency in that area. Is there an opinion, is there a shita that holds that less than a shava pruta doesn't work by a guy? From the following Gemara we'll see that it's not, that everybody agrees that even less than a pruta works for a guy. V'hashalach Rabbi Yitzchak Rabbi Yaakov bar Giuri mishmei de Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Yitzchak Rabbi Yaakov bar Giuri sent in the name of Rabbi Yochanan havi yoidin shesoichin min ha'akam afilu b'pachas mishava pruta. It's known that you can rent from a guy even with less than a shava pruta, and it takes effect. It works because less than a shava pruta for a guy is considered currency. But Amar Rabbi Chia bar Abba, Amar Rabbi Yochanan ben Noach nerag al pachis mishava pruta. A guy, a ben noyach, gets the death penalty for stealing even less than a shava pruta. And he doesn't have he doesn't even have the ability to rectify it by returning it. A yid has the heshav esagzela. If a yid steals, he could undo it by doing. He has another mitzvah called the heshav esagzela and do tshuva or whatever it is. But a guy, he can't even give it back. If he steals, he gets killed. Ela bria. So that can't be the difference between bria and re'ua, because if you tell me the difference between bria and re'ua, strong and weak rental is a pruta or less than a shava pruta, it doesn't make sense, because everybody agrees that when dealing with a guy, less than a shava pruta is always good. So must be, what's the difference between strong and weak rental? Ela bria b'moihar keva aborgani, re'ua b'loy moihar keva aborgani. Strong rental is he rents the rights to the extent that he can put his furniture in the chutzner, or like fill up the area with his chairs and stools. I think Rashi says different. Like he could put out his belongings, he could move into the chutzner, or maybe into the let's see what Rashi says here. L'malis hachutzner, yeah, he can fill up the chutzner with his benches and like different furniture if he wants. But a weak rental means he doesn't have the right to do that. He just has the right to, I guess, go there or for the purpose of ERU, but he doesn't have the right to fill it up with his furniture. So now we understand, according to the Manda Amar that says you need to have a strong rental. That's what the guy is afraid about. We're talking about why the guy wouldn't allow the rental. Right? So if we say that you need to have, like Rav Chisda says, you need to have a strong rental, so then, which means you could put your furniture there, the guy's afraid he won't get it back. Now, and according to the opinion that says you only need to have a weak rental in order to make an eruv, what's the guy afraid about? The guy is still going to be afraid of some kshafim like witchcraft, or something smells fishy to the guy here, because he offers to give up his rights and the guy says no, that's not good enough, I have to pay you. So he smells something fishy over here, so he's not going to want to rent out his property. So therefore the yid is going to have to move away. Gufa. The Gemara said before, Chatzere shel Ovid Kachavim harehu kedir shel behema. A chatzar of Ovid Kachavim, the courtyard of Ovid Kachavim, of a guy, with regard to the mavui, is considered like a stable. It doesn't have its own, it's not considered like a separate reshus to make it usher to carry there. You're allowed to carry from the courtyard into the house, and from the house into the courtyard. We're talking about a yid. Right? A guy doesn't have any restrictions. A yid can carry in from the chutzner into the guy's house, and from the guy's house into the chutzner.
If they've made an error.
No.
Or anything. Yeah,
because it's just considered like let's say there's no yid in here. We're talking about you have a courtyard which has a bunch of non-Jewish houses, or like two non-Jewish houses. So now in this courtyard, normally we say, why do you have to make an eruv chatzeres? Because there's, let's say, two houses and one courtyard, which is shared. The two houses, each one is considered its own reshus, and then the courtyard is a shared reshus. So when you go from your house into the chutzner, you're going from one reshus to another reshus, like a private reshus into a joint reshus. That's about. But a guy's reshus, a guy's house, we don't look at it as a separate reshus. The guy doesn't have what. You don't look at a guy's reshus as a reshus. So it's just one big open. You look at it as one big chutzner.
You just come out of your house and into that courtyard.
No, you don't live there.
Oh,
there's no yid there. When a yid comes there, if a yid lives there, then it changes the picture, because now the yid's reshus is separate, and the chutzner is for everybody there. So that's going to change. But if you just have goyim living in this courtyard, so a yid could come along and carry something for whatever reason. I don't know why he's doing that, but a yid could come carry something from the guy's house into the chutzner. You don't need an eruv there, because it's not a separate reshus.
Isn't it already a reshus run?
No, it's a reshus yachid. Even if we share a courtyard, we have houses in a courtyard, it's considered Rishus HaYachid. The Rabbanan made us chumrah that you have to make an eruv, because it's similar to going into Rishus HaRabban, because you're going from one level of Rishus to another level of Rishus. But over here, so we said that a chatzar of Ovid Kachavim is like a dir shel behema, it's just like a stable. You can go from the courtyard into the house, and from the house into the courtyard. If there's even one yid living amongst that courtyard, then oyser. Now you can't do that anymore. The yid makes it usher to carry in and out of the guy's house. Divrei Rabbi Meir. This is Rabbi Meir Shita. Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov. Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov says, "La'olam einay oyser ad sheyu shnei Yisraelim oyserim zeh al zeh." Very similar to our Mishnah. Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov says you have to have a minimum of 2 yidin living there. Okay. Amar Mar, Chatzeroi shel Akum, the Chatzer of Ovid Kachavim, Harehu Kedir shel Behema. Oh, he's asking a question. Amar Mar, Chatzeroi shel Akum, Harehu Kedir shel Behema. We're saying that it's like a stable, and it doesn't affect. V'ho'anan Tanan, what we learned, Hador im ha'akum, the Mishnah told us that if you live together with a guy, b'chatzer, in the same courtyard, Harei za'aiser love, it makes it usher to carry. So what's going on over here? Does it affect you or does it not affect? Lekashya ha de isei ha de lesei. One is talking about where the guy is home, he's home for Shabbos. One is talking about where the guy is not home for Shabbos. So let's understand this. Umay kasavar. Ikasavar dira beloy bailim shma dira. A house without an owner, if he's away, if the owner is not in the house, is that still considered a dira? Then afilu akum nami nitzar. So then, if he's not, it should still be a problem, right? The e kasavar dira beloy bailam loishma dira. So then afilu yisrael nami le nitzar. So that even a yid that's not home, but we understand that a yid that's not home, his house does get in the way. It does affect the rest of the ERU. So what do we hold? If the house without the owner in it is a problem, so then even if the guy's away, it should still pose a problem. And if the house without the owner is not a problem, so then it should work both ways. Even a yid shouldn't affect this chatzir. If the owner is not home, it doesn't affect this chatzir. It's not considered a house which is not joint in the eruv. So what's going on over here? Yisrael asar ki a yid, which when he's home, it makes it usher. If he's not part of the eruv, it makes it usher for everybody else to carry. So kilese, even if when he's not home, gazu be'rabanan. The chachamim made a gzeira. Gzeira when he's not home, atu when he is home.
But there's a difference. The dira of the goy
yes.
is considered rishus yachid. You said it's considered
right.
like a barn or
right.
But the rishus of a Jew
is considered
still a rishus yachid.
But if he's not home, if he's not home, everything's rishus yachid. Even outside the house is rishus yachid. The question here is whether or not it's considered a separate rishus. Going from one, you're not allowed to go on Shabbos from one Rosh Hashanah to another Rosh Hashanah either, unless they're joint in an Erev, right? So here the problem is it considered a separate Rosh Hashanah or not? Going into the house, is that considered going from one Rosh Hashanah to another Rosh Hashanah? So when he's not home, we're assuming it's not like going from one Rosh Hashanah to another Rosh Hashanah. So then what's the problem? We're making a Gezerah, even when he's not home, so you shouldn't mix it up for when he is home. But a guy, when he's home, we're afraid you might learn from his bad ways, right? You said that's the whole reason why you're not allowed to join with a guy. There's no room for a gzeira here. If he's home, we're afraid he may have an effect on you, and if he's not home, he won't have an effect on you. So we don't make a gzeira atu. If you remember from a number of blot ago, we said, where was that again? Mem Zayin, we said, if he's not home, does it not make it usher? We learned in a Mishnah, if somebody leaves his house and goes to a nearby city, he goes to Bishavas, he sets up his residence for Shabbos in a different city, whether he's a guy or a yid, usher. He still makes it usher for everybody else in that courtyard. Divrei Rabbi Meir. Hasam the Asi B'Yomi. Over there it's different. It's talking about where he's going to come back on the same day because it's a close city. It's close enough to come back. So therefore, it's a different story. Here we're talking about he went far away. Amar Yehuda Amar Shmuel. Halacha K'Reb Elazar ben Yaakov. In our Mishnah we had Reb Meir, which you said the Tanna Kama was Reb Meir, that says the guy only affects the guy can affect even if he could stand in the way of carrying and affect the eruv even if there's just one yid. One or more yidden. Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov says it's dafka when there's two or more. So Rabbi Yehuda Amar Shmuel tells us now the halacha is like Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov. Rabbi Huna Amar Minhag, Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov. Rabbi Huna says it's not the halacha, but if one comes to ask what he should do, we tell him that this is what we do. But it's not necessarily the halacha. In other words, the difference is if he doesn't do that, he didn't go against the halacha. But if you ask what we do, it's the minhag. That's what we do. That's the second level. Rabbi Yochanan Amar Na'agu ha'am. It's not the minhag, but we don't stop people from doing it. Right? Na'agu ha'am k'Elazar ben Yaakov. We don't tell somebody not to do it. Na'agu ha'am means that's the way everybody does it, so we don't tell them not to. It's a third darga. Amar le Abaya lo Rav Yosef. Chaim alon Mishnah Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov kavanaki. We go like Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov because his teachings are always kavanaki. They're like simple and straight. Yeah, they're short and clean. to the point. Rabbi Yehuda Amar Shmuel. Rabbi Yehuda Amar Shmuel says another thing. Halacha Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov. The halacha is like Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov. Now, Mahu Iruye b'makom Rabbi. Is this such a clear-cut halacha, so simple that even a Talmud could paskin that's the halacha in front of his teacher, in front of his Rebbe? Amar Leib. Yeah, so who says to who again? Amar Leib. Who's talking? Rabbi Yosef says to Abaya, right? Rabbi Yosef says to Abaya, Afilu be'asa bekutcha bo minei me Rav Chisda kol shani de Rav Huna v'loy oiri. All the years of Rav Huna, that was Huna was alive. That was Rav Chisda's Rebbe. So Rabbi Yosef, I guess it goes like this: Rav Huna was the Rebbe of Rav Chisda, Rav Chisda was the Rebbe of Rabbi Yosef, and Rabbi Yosef was the Rebbe of Abaya. And Abaya is talking here. Abaya says that Rabbi Yosef tells to Abaya that Rav Chisda, my Rebbe, whenever I asked him even a simple thing like if you can eat an egg with kutach, which is some sort of dairy mixture, it was such a clear-cut halacha that, and he still wouldn't answer me. He would always have to go to Rav Huna, who's his Rebbe. He wouldn't paskin in the place of his Rebbe. Not even if he's right in front of him. It means if he's in the same city, I think. He wouldn't tell me. Yaakov bar Abba la Abaye kegoin Megillas Tainus. What about Megillas Tainus? Megillas Tainus, the Ksiva Umancha. It's like an open book. You open it up and it says, this day you fast, this day you don't fast. It's very clear cut. Mahula Iruye ba'asra de Rabbi. Are you allowed to paskin in the city of your Rebbe? It's a very clear cut halacha. You don't need to apply any svara or attach to anything else. Amar le hachi amar Rabbi Yosef. Again, he says hachi amar Rabbi Yosef. Afilu beisa bekutcha, even beisa bekutcha, even the egg in kutach. Boi minei me Rav Chisda kol shani de Rav Huna. Again, he said the same answer. All the years of Rav Huna, Rav Chisda wouldn't answer me on a simple shiloh like an egg in kutach. So you see from here that you shouldn't pass in front of your Rebbe, even a clear-cut halach. That's what he's telling you. V'loy oiri Rav Chisda, v'loy Rav Chisda, right? V'loy oiri Rav Chisda. No, v'loy oiri. I'm sorry, right? Rav Chisda oiri b'kafri b'shani de Rav Huna. Oh, but Rav Chisda, the Gemara is telling us now that Rav Chisda did paskin in the city of Kafri, which wasn't Rav Huna's city. So if you were out of your Rebbe city, then you could paskin even if your Rebbe, I guess, alive, even if he's still alive. Rav Hamnuna oiri b'charta de argiz b'shani de Rav Chisda. Rav Hamnuna would paskin in the city of Charta de argiz. Rashi says Shem ha'ish shebana v'havi amgushi. He would paskin in a different city of his Rebbe. Okay, we'll hold it here.